Hello there, and welcome into a Water Break Wednesday presented by Crown Royal. I'm Drew Dougherty, and with me, as always, is my good friend, yours, Deepi Sidhu. Deepi, how you been?
I'm fantastic, Drew. I would be a lot more fantastic if the Texans had won at Tennessee in that overtime game.
Yeah.
But you know what? Such is life. We move on. And good thing we've got, the Green Bay Packers coming into town on Sunday. But you know what? I like it. We're playing football. We're covering games. So I will take it. So I'm having a great week, Drew.
And that's
changed my mind in that answer.
That's a perfect answer because we want to hear your questions, those of you watching, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Send us your questions. Tell us where you're watching, from where you're watching, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. And we've got a great one coming from a YouTuber, and Pete is the YouTuber's name. Pete wants to know, how is the morale in the locker room? I think it's good, Pete. They were very disappointed by what happened on Sunday, no doubt. I mean, they played well on offense. Defense struggled, gave up 600 yards of offense, and that's not going to win you some games. But there were some bright spots. 4 touchdowns passing, 0 picks for Deshaun Watson. Turnover battle, turnover margin, you were +2. It's the first time you've been above water in that regard since last season. And that was a really nice thing. So they're able to hit the deep ball, Deepy. They've been doing it better than anybody else in the AFC this year. Most completions of 20 yards or more. So let's keep that rolling. I think they can do some things. And Romeo Crennel said, we're going to fix some things in the run defense. We've got to maintain that gap discipline. We got to tackle better. We got to be smarter. We just got to do our job and not try to do too much, DB.
Yeah, I mean, I think on offense, the Texans did a lot of things that you can really hang your hat on and be proud of. Obviously, they didn't come out with the win, but they were toe-to-toe with the Tennessee Titans. And that's from coming from behind. But 2 big plays in the game, Justin Reed blocking the field goal. And then, of course, J.J. Watt's strip sack for a fumble on, just the next drive, or I think a few drives later, really changed the momentum of the game. The offense kept you in the game. J.J. Watt after the game said, of course, the offense had us in the game. The defense wasn't able to hold up their end. But certainly you see bright spots of where the Texans have improved, because early on the offense wasn't clicking. The offense wasn't scoring more than 21, 23 points. And like you said, Deshaun throws 4 touchdown passes, or there's 4 touchdowns in the game, and you really get things clicking. But now you have specific things that you need to fix moving forward. Obviously, the run defense, establishing the run. Still, it's getting better. It's not where it needs to be. But of course, these are formidable opponents too. So you've faced some heady battles. I think back-to-back weeks with takeaways is good, because that's obviously something they were sort of running on empty in every single department heading in to these last 2 games, but they've shown improvement. They just need to get it to the next level to get a win, because I think these players would really feel better with getting another win under their belt, especially heading into the bye.
Yeah, no doubt. David from the North Side has this. Do you think the Texans will sign Antonio Brown? And I don't, because everything we just mentioned, they have almost a surplus of wide receivers who can get open deep. And that's really not a spot on the team that needs a lot of help. That's one of the strengths of this team, I think, right now, is the wide receiver position. If they're going to add anybody, it's somebody to help stop the run, somebody to help out on defense, help get after the quarterback, help, at the back end of the secondary. So no, I do not think the Texans are going to sign Antonio Brown. And that leads into the next question from Scott, it's a really good one. Will the Texans be sellers at the trade deadline?
Ooh.
I don't know that you're going to see a fire sale like some people have said, but I do think you will see activity. You will see the Texans move some players at the trade deadline, before the trade deadline, because they want to probably recoup a little bit of draft capital, and they want some guys that can help out. So yes, I would not be surprised to see the Texans make some deals here in the weeks to come.
I mean, it's such a strange season, right? You fire your head coach in week 4. You're off to a losing record, but yet you don't really have a lot of draft picks next year. You still can win games because there's still a lot of season left. So you're kind of in a weird predicament. I think if there's any year to make some trades, it would be this one. Don't ask me which position, because I think we're all going to be watching to see, which players are out, available for trade, and which ones land in Houston, if any land in Houston. I think it's definitely something worth watching, because in years past, the Texans have been clicking, and there's been no need to, tilt the scales one way or the other. But I think a trade would be interesting at this point in time. Don't you, Drew?
I do.
Just don't trade. Just don't. I want to receive players, though. I don't really like the trading away players part.
Right, yeah. And the Texans don't have a first or a second round pick in the draft. They've got quite a bunch of picks after that, though, but they want to get a little bit higher up in the draft, or at least add surplus in the third and above. So I do think you will see movement, and I do think that's going to happen. Anthony from the UK has this. Will the Texans be getting Garyon Conley back anytime soon? If you listen to Romeo Crennel, and if you listen to what Bill O'Brien said in the final press conference where he was the head coach, because he had two in one day, one when he was the head coach and then after when he'd been let go. But the one before he got let go, he was asked about Conley, and he said, and basically Romeo Crennel said, it's not happening anytime soon. Maybe after the bye, but even the way they were both talking, it didn't sound like that's the case. I think it might be later November, December before we see Garyon Conley. That's just reading tea leaves type of thing. That's nothing that's been confirmed. But Deepi, from what you've heard and from what I've heard, are you disagreeing with what I'm saying? Or
no, I mean, yeah, I don't think you're reading the tea leaves at all. I think we kind of all heard it in Romeo's answer on Monday. He said that, whatever is ailing Conley, he's not ready. He's just not where they need him to be. He sought second opinions. I think when you hear second opinion in a player with an injury, that always raises eyebrows, because it means that, whatever treatment is happening right now is just not sufficient, or whatever they're advising might be something that is, not something the player wants to undertake at this point in time. So whatever the course of treatment is, it's still in question, because he's just not feeling to the point where he can come back. You've got the bye week coming up next week. Maybe things change, but I just wouldn't hang my hat on the fact that Garyon Conley is coming back really anytime soon. Yeah,
and nobody's saying he's Deion Sanders at his peak, but this was a guy who logged significant snaps for you the second half of last season, and he's not on your team now. That hurts. You could use that depth behind Hargraves or with Hargraves, ahead of Hargraves and Bradley Roby. So, yeah, you want him back, and you want him back as soon as you can, but he's just not there yet. Clint has this. What needs to change on defense? I think the big thing is eliminate or cut down on the mental errors. They're guys in the wrong spot, and the offense of the other team is able to exploit that. We saw that time and time again on Sunday. You can talk all about tackling, you talk all about gap control, but ultimately that stuff, I think, Deepi, goes back to just not making mental mistakes.
Yeah, and Romeo talked about it. They were going to evaluate, again, how they approach this defense, because I thought maybe we're asking these players to do too much, and that's where the mental errors are coming in, because they have to think through a lot of different scenarios in order to make a play, and that's what's causing mental errors. Maybe we ask them to do less. Maybe they just do their part and then, go. What does Romeo always say? He's like, do your job and then go help. Maybe they're going to simplify it some more for the players so that they can get things right before they try to ask too much of the players. But, he did say gap integrity and making tackles. Those are the two biggest things ailing this defense right now. And if they don't get it under control, they're going to see more games like they saw against the Titans. And even when you've got an offense that's playing perfectly, sometimes that's just not enough to win games if your defense can't hold the opposing team.
Tyler Good has this one. Can you see the Texans turning the season around? They're certainly in the valley right now. They only have the one win, and they've got a lot of losses. But if any team can do it, a team that's led by Deshaun Watson at quarterback is capable of that. Deshaun is leading the AFC in the deep ball. He's got the most completions of 20 yards or more in the AFC. They've got a lot of quick receivers, a lot of guys that can get deep, but a lot of guys that can strike fear into the heart of opposing defenses. So, yeah, they can be able, or they're going to be able, it looks like, to score with a lot of teams in this league. They just got to get back closer to average on defense, just like we talked about, eliminate some of these mental mistakes. And, yeah, stuff could break your way and you could go on a run. It's going to be tough. I'm not guaranteeing it. But if any team can do it, it's an offense led by a quarterback like this that I think is capable of doing it.
Yeah, never say never, right? The NFL added a couple more playoff spots. So certainly a team, maybe a team that's 8-8, 7-9 could possibly sneak into the playoffs. I mean, that's not really how the Texans want to get into the playoffs, but I guess at this point, they're not going to be picky. But I think consistency is the key. They're going to have to play with more consistency. And they're going to have to not have to play from behind, because that's really been a struggle. So when you're playing from behind, you're really asking a lot more of your defense. They have to stop the run more. They can't get after the passer, which is something that, they want to be able to do. They want to be able to get after the passer. So there's still a lot of things that need to be fixed before we start talking playoffs. I think it's really early.
Hey, Deepi, you said 7 or 9 or 8-8. Why can't this team win 10 in a row? Let's go 11-5. That's what I'm after. Okay, next question.
We were here when they won 9 in a row. We were here, Drew. You and I saw it.
Let's beat that streak, all right? Pete has this. Do you see a difference in the players' attitudes the last few weeks? Absolutely. I mean, you have to be blind and deaf not to see this difference in attitudes. Guys are looser. Guys are having fun. Guys are playing with a different sort of spirit. It needs to get better because if they're going to win games, they've got to shore some things up. But yes, I have seen a definite difference in players' attitudes the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
I mean, I think it just trickles down from the top, right? You just see Romeo and how he sort of leads this team. He's got so much experience. He's been in this role before. He's, making the players laugh in team meetings, but he has seen a lot of football. He's probably forgotten more football than most of us will ever even learn. Mm-hmm. So you've got a guy like that leading the ship. And I think players have a lot of confidence in him, and he wants them to play loose and have some fun and enjoy the game of football once again. And he knows that comes from between the two ears. That's where it has to start. So he's getting them, mentally confident to go out and play these games. That's why I think we've seen such a turnaround in their performance these last few weeks. It's definitely their attitude. It's a lot more positive.
Joseph has a good question. How is COVID-19 still affecting the team? Now, I don't think the guys are going out there and thinking about COVID instead of thinking about tackling players on the other side or blocking guys. But it's just like the rest of us in society. Times are different now. Before they come into the building, they've got to get tested. They all have to wear a mask. They're doing meetings in a different way. They're spread out throughout the building more so than in the past. So they're going about their daily lives. But I think they're just like the rest of the NFL in that they've adjusted their schedule, but they're not dwelling on COVID-19. And that's not the reason that they've struggled this season, Deepi.
Yeah, we were talking with Brennan Scarlett on the player show yesterday, and he was outlining, just the routine. They have to wear masks everywhere they go. After practice, they have their meetings in the bubble where they're all socially distanced. And then after practice, he said they go home and they have hours of Zoom calls. So for most, practical purposes, the practice portion of the week is the same, but it's just the meetings are via Zoom. So, like the rest of us at home, while it was very weird at first, you sort of get used to Zoom meetings, and you know what, you're in the comfort of your own home. And a lot of these guys, I think, probably like that, but they definitely enjoy being in person, and at least they're able to do that. So I don't think, other than the nuance, the annoying, having to get tested every single day, like weekends, days off, bye weeks, everything. And, I think wearing the masks and hand washing, it hasn't really affected the players too much. They treat it as part of their game day routine.
Mm-hmm. Charlotte, North Carolina is a very pretty city, if I say so myself. And Nicholas is watching in Charlotte. So Nicholas, thanks for checking us out. We also got our good pal Frederick from France. Good to hear from you, Frederick. Thank you. And Lorenzo in Mexico. That's just a smattering of the folks all around the globe who are checking us out today. And we appreciate all your questions. We appreciate you watching. And we got time for about one more question. It comes from Ernie with an A. EA, Ernie. Is it time to give some rookies more playing time? I think you're going to start seeing rookies play a little bit more. Jonathan Grenard has gotten some action the last few weeks. It's all been on special teams. I do think the outside linebacker will start playing some more on defense slowly and steadily. I think you'll see more of John Reed there at slot corner. Romeo Crennel was asked about Isaiah Coulter, the wide receiver who's been on injured reserve. I don't know when he's going to play. It sounded like there's still a bit of time for him to do some things. But yeah, I do think you will see the rookies slowly and steadily get more PT. Blacklock, the first of the rookies taken in the draft this year, he showed up a little bit on Sunday in Nashville and keeps on getting better. So yes, Deepi, I do think you will see more rookies starting to get some more action.
I mean, you didn't really have a lot of draft picks. You only had 5 draft picks heading into 2020. So there's only a few guys to keep your eyes on, but there are a lot of injuries. So, I think that's when you would see the rookies come in, especially I'd keep an eye on that secondary because a lot of guys are banged up from that Titans game. That was a long physical game. Hargraves, Lonnie Johnson, nicked up, obviously Gary and Conley, we talked about him. So maybe John Reed get some extra playing time in the weeks to come. Definitely something to keep an eye on.
It sure is. Well, this has been fun. And we couldn't have done this, Deepi and I. We could have done this without the help of guys like Andrew Temperley, Tyler Marcotte, ladies like Amanda Caffey. And we could have done it without you watching and without you sending in questions. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for you because y'all are the best fans in the land. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate you. And we're going to do this again next week, hopefully after a Texans win, heading into a nice bye week. Does that sound good to you? Sounds good to me. Mm-hmm. You have a good one. I'll have a good one. And we'll see you all again next time. Until then, go Texans.